8th of April, and I have submitted a leave of absence from the period from the 31st of March to the 30th of April 2023. May I have a mover of a motion to grant these requests? Councillor Papalia.
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor David.
Seconded. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry.
To speak to the motion.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor David. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour of the motion? Motion carried. Item 4, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest for item 12.4 that I've previously disclosed to the CEO.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to declare a conflict for item 12.10, which I have previously disclosed to the CEO.
Thank you. Item 5. There are 4 items to be designated as confidential. May I have a mover of a motion to designate the items as confidential? Councillor Kerr.
I move the motion as per the business papers.
Do I have a seconder?
I second the motion as per the business papers.
Councillor Russick. Is anyone, did you want to speak to that, Councillor Kerr?
No, thank you.
Councillor Russick?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to that motion? Okay, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 6. May I have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous council meetings?
I move that motion as per business papers.
Councillor Tarkos?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder of that motion? Councillor O'Reilly?
I second as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Did you want to speak to that motion?
No, thanks.
And Councillor O'Reilly. Anyone else wish to speak to that motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 7. There is one item of condolences. May I have a mover of a motion of condolences regarding the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria?
Mr. Mayor, I move the motion as per the shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Do I have a seconder of that motion? Councillor Dang? Thank you. And would you like to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tarkos?
I would like to express my deep sadness and sincere condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones on this terrible earthquake that has struck Turkey and Syria. Brimbank City Council stands with the people of Turkey and Syria after the 6th of February earthquakes. Our thoughts are with the communities, the families and loved ones affected, including significant numbers of refugees and internally displaced peoples. I also acknowledge the Turkish and Syrian communities in Brimbank. Watching these events unfold from afar must be unimaginably difficult. We are thinking of you, strength to you in these incredibly difficult times. The heartbreaking images we see on television, on screens and social media show with alarming clarity the level of devastation that has been caused in Turkey and Syria. The scale and magnitude of the destruction caused by the earthquakes is enormous. Across the two countries, thousands of buildings have collapsed, many more have been partially destroyed. Delivering relief efforts across such a huge scale is incredibly hard, particularly when so much infrastructure such as airports, roads, viaducts have also been damaged. These circumstances are sadly compounded by the harsh challenges of winter, with dollars in aid to Turkey and Syria, taking its total contribution to the earthquake-hit countries to $18 million to help recovery efforts. The federal government is also investigating how it may be able to speed up the visa process for Australia from earthquake-devastated regions. I now ask that we observe a minute's silence for those who have lost their lives in this tragic earthquakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Dang, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Echo to Councillor Tarkos' words, I would like to express my deep sadness and condolences to family lost their loved one in Turkey and Syria earthquake. My thought and prayer are with all the victims of this severe natural disaster, the rescuer and the Turkish community in Brimbank. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dang. Did anyone else want to speak to the motion? I will put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. I will now ask all councillors, officers and the gallery to stand and observe 1 minute's silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Item 8. There are no items of congratulations this evening. Item 9. Ms Blatchford, I understand we have received questions from the members of the public.
Thank you, Mayor. First question tonight is from Catherine McDonald. Does the Brimbank Council intend to submit an objection to Heritage Victoria regarding the application by the Airport Rail Authority to construct a massive earth wall along the edge of Mackay Gardens?
In June 2019, Council adopted the final Sunshine Super Hub Urban Design Principles, UDPs, which specifically address protection of the HV Mackay Memorial Gardens. The UDPs have been submitted to Rail Projects Victoria and used to establish a consistent message regarding Council's expectations in relation to the Melbourne Airport Rail project. Council will review the application to Heritage Victoria once it has been prepared and submitted for comment and prepare a response as required.
Second question from Catherine McDonald this evening. Has the Brimbank City Council submitted any feedback to the Airport Rail Link Authority regarding the rail impact on the Mackay Gardens, and if so, what information has it provided?
In addition to providing the urban design principles, the importance of protecting the heritage values of the HV Mackay Gardens has been reiterated in various meetings with Rail Projects Victoria. Most recently, during an on-site meeting held on the 1st of February 2023 between council officers, representatives from the Friends of the HV Mackay Gardens and the Melbourne Airport Rail team. Council is awaiting further information on the final design for the Melbourne Airport Rail as it relates to the HV Mackay Gardens, including an anticipated submission to Heritage Victoria before providing formal feedback.
We've received a question from Bianca. How often is the Derrimut cleaned from rubbish?
Council's rubbish and litter management of the Derrimut area includes, but is not limited to, weekly collection of litter bins, street sweeping completed every 6 weeks, proactive and reactive dumped rubbish collections, and a routine drain cleaning service. These activities are supported by broader litter awareness campaigns and compliance through litter enforcement officers.
Second question from Bianca. Can Derrimut be more environmentally improved, i.e. more trees in the nature strips and next to all the main roads to provide habitat and block out excess noise from freeways and factories close by, more bins at parks, more bee encouraging flowers?
As part of Council's annual street tree infill planting program, trees are planted in suburbs where trees are lacking the most. Trees will be planted in Derrimut as part of this program in future years. Residents can log a request with Council's customer service and request litter bins at certain locations. The request will be investigated by Council officers to determine if the site meets the guidelines for litter bin allocation. Council officers are currently reviewing Council's roadside gardens and applying a native style that will provide habitat for Australian wildlife, including bees and birds.
We've received a question from Jackie Tomic. Where is the coat of arms in your chambers? What jurisdiction are you under? Please provide.
The State Badge of Victoria and the Victoria Coat of Arms can only be used with the permission and in certain circumstances. For example, by state government agencies and authorities, by Victorian government ministers and departments, by state branches of national organisations to identify it as representing Victoria. Victorian councils are lawfully constituted by state legislation, the Local Government Act 2020.
Second question from Jackie Tomic. Where is the council mentioned in our constitution? Section 51, legislative powers of parliament. There is nothing in our constitution that gives the council any powers, and if so, please provide the proclamation certificate signed and sealed by the Governor-General for and behalf of Queen Elizabeth of the Commonwealth.
Councils are recognised in the Constitution Act 1975, the Victorian Constitution. Section 74B. No questions from the gallery, please. Thank you. No questions from the gallery.
You can call the order to meeting. You can call the meeting to order.
I call the meeting to order.
Is that sort of the people, those changes? Or did Whitlam just impose them?
Just keep reading.
Okay, you cannot impose this arbitrarily.
Okay. I've called the meeting to order.
What order, mate? Seriously.
Any further, and you'll be asked to leave the chambers.
If there's any further outburst, you'll be asked to leave the meeting.
Keep going ahead.
Councils are recognised in the Constitution Act 1975, the Victorian Constitution. Section 74B of the Victorian Constitution explicitly recognises local government and gives Parliament the right to make laws for... I have called this meeting to order and I have asked you to be quiet, please. Yes. No.
You can adjourn the meeting for 30 minutes if you like.
No, can we have him removed?
So we need to do a two-stage process. Victorian Police remove Victorian breach and breach this chapter, who the chair has ordered to be removed from the gallery, so that you can ask him for him to be removed under Rule 76.
Of the Chief Executive Officer. I ask the Chief Executive Officer to have this man removed from the council chamber, please. Thank you. I'll continue with the response to that question. Councils are recognised in the Constitution Act 1975, the Victorian Constitution. Section 74B of the Victorian Constitution explicitly recognises local government and gives Parliament the right to make laws for and in relation to local government. The Local Government Act 1989 and 2020 provide councils with a range of powers. The current Victorian Constitution was proclaimed in the Victorian Government Gazette on the 26th of November 1975. A copy of the Gazette can be accessed at www.gazette.slv.vic.gov.au.
We've received a question from Jeffrey Schwartz, who would like to know why the Sunshine Soccer Club is able to be sold due to the history of the land between here and the Sunshine Gardens and the Bowling Gardens, as he believes they are sacred sites due to the Sunshine Rail disaster in 1908. Due to the carriages in those days not being able to be towed away, and they've been buried here on the historical site. The famous rock is on platform 1 at the Sunshine Station. And did anyone read that Matthew Ferguson was not allowed to build on this site as they were meant to build a station to move their farming gear, as in those dates there was only horse and cart? How come all councillors, including the mayor, have failed to recognise the historical factor of this land and this rock and the 44 people that died here Easter Monday 10:44 p.m? He wants to report that this land is sacred sites and would like to know why this land is now for sale due to these historical reasons.
Council is unaware of what happened to the rail carriages after the Sunshine Rail disaster, or if they were buried nearby. Officers will undertake research, and the Director of City Development will respond to this question in writing when more is known about this matter.
The area surrounding Alexandra Avenue in Sunshine is frequently the target of rubbish dumping, which is causing significant distress to local residents whose neighbourhood is being treated as a de facto rubbish tip. What proactive steps are council taking to prevent rubbish dumping in this area? This question is from Carly Deegan.
Brimbank has issued notices to the property owner for rectification works to be undertaken to clear refuse and remove offending items. Clean-up works were identified as completed following an inspection held on the 20th of February 2023. Brimbank's litter enforcement and cleansing staff also regularly patrol the area to investigate and remove any rubbish dumped by others on public land.
Second question from Carly Deegan. Local law 8.1 requires that an owner of the land must not keep land and anything on that land in a manner that is not unsightly and keep the land free of rubbish and waste material. Would Council please detail what steps it is taking to ensure the owner of 620 Alexandra Avenue, Sunshine, is complying with this law, noting there have been multiple contraventions to date?
Brimbank has issued notices to the property owner for rectification works be undertaken to clear refuse and remove offending items. Brimbank officers inspected the property on the 20th of February 2023 and advised that the notice has been complied with and works completed.
We have received a third and fourth question from Ms Tomic. In accordance with Brimbank Rules, Fort Governance Rules 57.8, no person may submit more than 2 questions at any one meeting. As a result, this question will not be read out or responded to.
Local Police Command on behalf of affected residents.
Second question from Hongao. Old Council Building 6 to 18 Alexandra Avenue, Sunshine, 3020. The building also has an Aboriginal art piece attached which is damaged. The site is also becoming a dumping site for nearby builders. What's the council's plan with it?
The building is now privately owned and maintenance of the building, including any art pieces, is the responsibility of the current owner. As the site has a heritage overlay, any planning permit issued for the development will include conditions requiring appropriate rectification works. Brimbank staff regularly patrol the area to investigate and remove any rubbish dumped by others on public land. Councillors, we have a need to extend question time tonight to respond to all the eligible questions submitted to the public. Can I have a mover of a motion to extend question time for a further 15 minutes? Councillor Tarkos, and seconded Councillor Borg. Councillor Tarkos, any?
I move that question time is extended, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Borg,
I'll second that motion, Mr Mayor.
is there any debate on that motion? No? Okay. I move the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried.
Council has received 5 public questions in relation to the Legacy Boxing Gym in Sunshine West. In accordance with Rule 57.15 of the Brimbank Governance Rules, these questions will be grouped together and a single answer provided. These questions I will read. Now, why hasn't Brimbank Council issued a statement of condemnation of the neo-Nazi Legacy Boxing Gym operating in Sunshine West? Doing so would demonstrate to the culturally diverse Brimbank region that racist violence and hate will not be tolerated, and that we all stand against racism for multicultural harmony and diversity. It would be great if Brimbank councillors and or mayor could follow the lead given by Councillor George Jokera of Maribyrnong Council. Second question from Van Tyrad. Why hasn't Brimbank Council revoked the council-issued permit that allows the Legacy Boxing Gym to continue conducting business as a neo-Nazi gym training centre? Boxing Victoria has already moved to suspend the registration of all coaches involved in Legacy Boxing Gym, which is an encouraging move, but the gym is still allowed to operate as a business. Council allowing this only further encourages their clandestine neo-Nazi activity. Further question from Patrick. I'm very concerned about the presence of a gym in Sunshine which was reported on late last year being a recruitment and training ground for Nazis and far-right extremists. These types of ideologies do not belong in our multicultural community and present a threat to our way of life. We ask the Council to take a stand on this issue by 1, making a statement against these types of ideologies, and 2, moving to revoke any permit issued to this gym. Further question from Amanda. Will the Council make a public statement on behalf of Brimbank residents condemning the actions and ideology of known Nazi meeting place, Legacy Boxing Gym in Sunshine West? Further question from Amanda. Will the Council revoke the operating permit of Legacy Boxing Gym in Sunshine West? Yeah.
Brimbank Council shares the community's concerns about the alleged links between Legacy Boxing Gym in Sunshine West and the activities of neo-Nazi activists. Brimbank is a proudly diverse community and has been a refugee welcome zone for a number of years. Almost half of our residents were born overseas, and our community is one that is welcoming, tolerant and embracing. There is no place for racism in Brimbank. In line with our Community Vision 2040, we want our community to be healthy and safe and united through a sense of belonging and pride. On behalf of our community, Brimbank City Council condemns any intolerant, racist or fascist activity or sentiment within Brimbank and in any other place. Council does not have the power to revoke or cancel a planning permit under the Planning Environment Act 1989.
The final questions tonight are from Kim Cullen. In regards to the pilot program for Sunshine West on the 20-minute neighbourhood plan, has the council done or are they planning to do any public consultation with the locals with full disclosure of this program, including the protesting of such setups in the UK and elsewhere?
Council has partnered with the Department of Energy and Environment and Climate Action to engage with the traders and local community as part of the Sunshine West 20-minute neighbourhood initiative. There have been great public realm outcomes to date, and Council plans to further engage with the local community on more improvements.
Our final question for this evening is from Kim Cullen. What is the plan for 20-minute neighbourhoods in Brimbank, and what areas are currently being set up for implementing these?
The 20-minute neighbourhood is all about living locally, giving people the ability to meet most of their daily needs within a 20-minute walk from home, with safe cycling and local transport options. Our plan is to make Brimbank a place where people can have easy access to the things they need in their daily lives.
Item 10, petitions.
Item 10, There is one petition to be received. Council received a petition with 848 signatories objecting to the removal of the Centre Street car parking in the two proposals for the Civic Walk area in the current draft Elfrida Street Master Plan. May I have a mover of a motion to receive the petition? Councillor Tarkos?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I accept this petition as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia?
Yes, I second that. Thank you.
Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Papalia? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All those in favour of receiving the petition? Motion carried. Item 11. There are no minutes of delegated committees. Item 12. There are 11 officer reports for consideration by Council tonight. Councillors, I wish to advise that in the interest of conducting all of the business on tonight's agenda, I will not be granting extensions of speaking time this evening. If you have an alternate or amended motion this evening, you must draft these motions and provide to the governance team via emails so that they may be shared on screen and form part of the meeting. Otherwise, we may have to defer the matter until the motion has been written, allowing the meeting to proceed uninterrupted. Item 12.1, Planning Activity Update and Delegate Decisions, Planning Scheme Amendments Update. Mr Walsh, could you present that report? Thank you.
Of course, Mr Mayor, thank you. The purpose of this report is to advise Council of the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in Brimbank and decisions made under delegated authority in December 2022 and January of this year regarding planning permit applications and other matters. The report also provides the status of current planning scheme amendments as at the 31st of January 2023. Officers recommend that Council notes the activity update and delegated decisions at Attachment 1 and notes the planning scheme amendments summary at Attachment 3. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Kerr?
I move the report as per the business papers.
Is there a seconder of the motion? Councillor Tarkos?
I second the report also as per business papers. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to? Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I will put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. 12.2, Planning Compliance Activity Update. Director, Mr Walsh.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to advise Council of planning compliance activity for the period 1st of October to 31st of December 2022, and officers recommend that Council note the activity report. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions of the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Seconder,
I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Councillor Russick. Councillor Borg, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Russick, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? I will put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 12.3, Sunshine Town Centre Marketing Business Development Special Rate Scheme. Director, Mr Walsh.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider declaring the Sunshine Town Centre Marketing and Business Development Special Rate for a defined area within the Sunshine Town Centre. Officers recommend that Council notes the summary of submissions and objections about the proposed declaration of the special rate, including the officer assessment, which is attachment 1 to the report. And having considered all the submissions and objections received by Council and being satisfied that the properties included in the area will receive a special benefit, the Council declares the rate and undertakes a range of administrative actions to strike the special rate, including advising the Sunshine Business Association of the resolution and sending notice levies to persons liable or required to pay the special rate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I move the motion as printed in the papers, Mr. Mayor. I move the motion as printed in the business papers.
Okay. Move the motion as...
I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that it's timing for those people to get the levy. They spend quite a bit of money. This is the business association, and we're there to help them, as they're doing a wonderful thing for our city. So the next page is telling me that I feel a bit heavy-handed, if you like, in reference to the west side of our city. That part is suffering badly, but it's telling me that tomorrow might be a better day for them. I'm referring to the railing, and that's what we're all waiting to see if that happens, because that part of the city, it was the former capital of the city, and it's lacking very badly right now. So I support the report all the way. Yeah. Thank you.
No, nothing further to add. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Councillor Boyd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was interesting to read all the submissions and to see that, among other things, that non-governmental organizations can apply for an exemption to the payment of council rates, including the special rate. Among other things, this money raised from this scheme will go towards the appointment of a professional marketing coordinator. The Sunshine Business Association do a wonderful job, especially when it comes to organizing events. A testimony of that is the annual Lunar New Year celebration that is getting bigger and better. I understand that some, if not all, of the small businesses are doing it tough. However, the benefits of this scheme will outweigh this deficit. So I really support this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider endorsing the draft Sydenham Park Consultative Committee Terms of Reference at Attachment 1, form a selection panel to determine membership and receive a further report advising of the membership appointments. The officers recommend that Council endorses the Terms of Reference and undertakes a range of administrative actions to establish the Sydenham Park Consultative Committee as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Director? In that case, I'll move the... can we have a mover of the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add an amendment to the motion as per shared screen, and that is to add under point B the following amendment, which is the addition of a representative of the golf club of Keylor Inc.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, Councillor Russick?
I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry?
Councillor Douglas just spoke.
Yeah. Sorry? Oh, sorry, yes. Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the amendment?
Yes, briefly, Mr Mayor, the amendment is just to include the Keylor Golf Club, which represents the golfers who use Sydenham Park's golf course. The expertise that a representative from the group would provide to the committee would be a very valuable. In addition of an extra position on the committee, it's reasonable given the significant golf knowledge this person would bring. In addition, with council taking back management of the golf course, this position will be vital to the future success of this facility and provide useful information on golf innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder, would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Tarko summed it up pretty well. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 12.5, Quarterly Budget Report. The Director, Mr Maher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to note the quarterly budget report and accompanying financial statements for the period ending 31st of December 2022. The quarterly budget report is a requirement under the Local Government Act 2020. It is recommended that Council notes the quarterly budget report and accompanying statements for the period ending 31st of December 2022. Thank you.
Are there any questions of the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per business papers.
Could I have a seconder of the
I'll
motion?
second it, Mr Mayor.
Councillor David, seconder of the motion. Councillor Borg, do you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a quarterly budget report. Some highlights of this report include an operating surplus of $9.41 million. Year-to-date capital works is $21.25 million against a budget of $27.43 million. The full-year capital expenditure forecast estimates expenditure of $75.31 million, being $4.64 million unfavorable to the budget. This is mainly due to the rising cost of materials and services. Regarding the cash position, the forecast year-end cash balance is $71.34 million, being $12.50 million less than the annual budget. This report continues to demonstrate Council's implementation of the principles of sound financial management in spite of the continuous financial challenges and uncertain times. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to this report?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Would any other councillor like to speak to this report? In that case, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. 12.6, Financial Hardship Policy. Mr Maher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the adoption of an amended financial hardship policy. The policy provides guidance for assessment of the grounds upon which a waiver of rates and interest may apply or could be applied for. It is recommended that Council resolve to adopt the amended financial hardship policy as attachment 1 to the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Kerr.
I move the motion as per the business papers.
Could I have a seconder of the motion? Councillor Russick.
I'll second the motion as per business papers. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Russick, would
No,
you like to
thank
speak
you.
to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Considering the current financial stress for some more than others, it is important that we continue to review and amend accordingly the financial hardship policy. Suffice to say that COVID-19 and its detrimental effects are still very much with us. Uncertainty and rapid change in all aspects of life have never been and still are so pronounced. As a local government, it's important to continue to find ways and means in supporting the community. And may I also add that it is also imperative that Council fully complies with the Local Government Act 1989. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 12.7, Governance Report. Ms Hill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Governance Report is a standing report within the Council meeting agenda. It is predominantly a summary of key operational and governance activity written in compliance with the Local Government Act of 1989 and 2020. In this month's report, Council is recommended to approve a works order for an existing contract and award a new contract, update the revised membership of the St Albans Town Centre Partnership, note Council's submission to the National Airport Safeguarding Framework Advisory Group, endorse the Mayors for the Voice to Parliament public statement, and endorse the membership of the Western Melbourne Economic Development Alliance. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Director? Would someone like to move this report?
I move the report, thank you,
Councillor
as per the shared screen.
Thank you, Councillor Papalia. Would anyone like to second this report? Councillor Borg.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, do you wish to speak to the report?
No, thank you.
Councillor Borg, do you wish to speak to the report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's interesting to note so many elements embedded in this report, including, but not limited to, the National Airport Safeguarding Advisory Group review of Guideline C and the subsequent submission that Council lodged on the 16th of December 2020. There is also the Voice to Parliament. As a local government, it's important that Brimbank Council signs the mayors for the Voice of Parliament public statement. With the conversations we had with the members of the community, First Nations people, sitting on the Brimbank Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Reconciliation Action Plan Consultative Committee are highly supportive of the Voice to Parliament. It's important that the Mayor signs this public statement and support our community in raising awareness on such a significant matter, namely the upcoming referendum. Important also to note the renewal of the membership of the West of Melbourne Economic Development Alliance, which is known as WMEDA. It is also worth note-taking. WMEDA is highly beneficial in terms of advocacy regarding issues that relate to Western Metropolitan Region, including Brimbank. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak to that item? I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 12.8, appointments to portfolios and committees. Ms Hill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider making appointments to a range of internal and external committees and Council portfolios. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions of the Director? Thank you. Could I have a mover of the motion, Councillor Tarkos?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the motion as per shared screen.
And could I have a seconder of the motion? Councillor O'Reilly.
I'd like to second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, Mr Mayor, to say that it's wonderful that we are continuing the portfolios and also the committees providing us an opportunity to become knowledge leaders, and also with complementary committees be able to add value to our role as councillors in Brimbank. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Riley, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think Councillor Tarchos summed it up pretty much, but our role as councillors on committees allows us to be the voice for our community in those spaces.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to speak to that motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 12.9, Council Plan 2021 to 2025, Year 2 Annual Action Plan. Ms Hill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the Year 2 second quarter update on the progress of our Council Plan 2021 to 2025 Annual Action Plan from the period from October to December 2022. The recommendation is that Council notes the state of the actions as presented in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Are there any questions of the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per business papers. Thank you.
Could I have a seconder of the motion?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Borg, would you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second quarter progress report as of the 31st of December 2022. It's noted that 2 council plan actions were completed and the remaining 111 council plan actions are in progress. This report is highly comprehensive and it provides an insight into projects and services that are in line with the strategic directions, namely people and community, places and spaces, opportunity and prosperity, and leader of governors. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you. Councillor David, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is there any other councillor who would wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 12.10, Brimbank Community Grants. Ms Dumble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is being presented to Council to note the governance report and program outcomes for the 2022-23 Brimbank City Council Community Grants Program. The Community Grants Program is designed to assist the community to implement innovative solutions to ongoing and emerging challenges and strengthen community resilience. The grant program was open for a period of 7 weeks and Council received 177 applications with a total of 600,459 allocated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Dumble. Are there any questions of the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Tarkos.
Mr Mayor, I move the motion as per shared screen.
Could I have a seconder? Councillor
I
Rasic.
second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to say a few words to congratulate all the applicants, but also the feedback that I've been getting from my community is that a lot of groups without skills in grant writing need support and would really benefit from support from Council in the application process, because, as we know, not everyone has got strong skills in writing grants. They can be quite complex, and involve a lot of, I guess, understanding. And what we could do perhaps is maybe run more workshops to assist people that are applying for grants to get those skills up and running. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rasic, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Contract number 2791, recyclables. The Director, Mr Ramoski.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this contract is for Council to consider the recommendation to extend Council's recyclables processing services contract with Cleanaway Proprietary Limited for a one-year period to 30 June 2024 based on agreed schedule of rates. The service under this contractor for the receipt and processing of recyclable material collected as part of Council's residential curbside recycling collection service. There have been no contractual issues with the current service provider. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Kerr.
I move the motion as per the business papers.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Tarkos.
I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Kerr?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Tarkos? Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. I move to item 13, notice of motion. There are 4 notices of motion. The first one is Gambling Reform Mandatory Pre-Commitment Scheme. Do I have, Councillor Papalia, do I have a mover of the motion?
Yes, I move the motion as per the business papers. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder of the motion?
I'll second the motion, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Borg, second the motion.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment for the notice of motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder of that amendment?
I second the amendment, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Kerr seconded the amendment. Now, Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, on the between 2021 and 22, a total of $128,396,442 was lost to EGM machines in Brimbank, the highest of any Victorian local government area. This equates to almost $500,000 every day. I am concerned about the devastating impacts of gambling on our community, and I'm calling on Council to advocate for the introduction of mandatory cashless pre-commitment schemes across Victoria. A universal mandatory pre-commitment system provides accurate information to people on the time and money spent gambling over a set period. This can help empower people to take control of their gambling. The Victorian Government recently committed to introducing cashless gambling card system at the casino. However, it is critical it is also implemented in pubs, clubs, and these reforms be effective. In 22, I called on Council to support the Alliance for Gambling Reforms campaign to the lead-up of Victorian state election and to write the federal government seeking gambling reform. As a leadership council with the Alliance for Gambling Reform, AGR, Council has consistently been calling on the Victorian Government to take steps to reduce gambling harm through a range of evidence-based harm minimisation measures. This includes the introduction of a mandatory pre-commitment system. This aligns with Council's ongoing commitment to reducing harm from all forms of electronic gambling through our electronic gambling policy. Mr Mayor, just to note that New South Wales and Tasmania are currently made announcements of also introducing mandatory cashless and pre-commitment scheme, which is also bipartisan supported. introduced for all state EGMs by the end of 24. This pre-commitment scheme is considered the gold standard of harm minimisation measures. In 22, the New South Wales state government introduced a bill to introduce cashless gaming for EGMs across the state. It is unclear whether New South Wales' proposal meets all the objectives for the strong harm minimisation. It is expected that the government will provide further details before the state election coming up in March. In conclusion, I remain very concerned about the impact of gambling to the Brimbank community. The renewed momentum of the New South Wales and Tasmanian announcements and reforms mean this is an opportunistic time for us to build on that momentum and also push for gambling reform, given our LGA is probably one of the ones that has lost the most over the years. Through this motion, I call on Council to lobby the state government to commit to a mandatory evidence-based pre-commitment scheme as it's being introduced in Tasmania. This measure has potential to significantly reduce gambling harm in our community. The losses on our community, I can't explain the travesty it is and the emotional and the hardship that it's created. Broken homes, people being evicted, losing jobs, tradies losing all their pay. I mean, you know, the impacts are far and wide, but it needs to be treated with proper reforms, and I think this particular proposal can really assist our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkis. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I just want to thank and commend Councillor Tarkos for bringing and highlighting this really important issue in Brimbank. There's no doubt that Brimbank are the second lowest socio-economic areas in Victoria. We have one of the highest gambling losses. The Premier was quoted during the week saying that not everybody has a gambling problem, and I think they rely so heavily on the revenue raised from gambling. So I think that we have a huge problem in Brimbank with, you know, there's a lot of harm to families. People are losing their homes. Kids are going without food, clothing. So I really commend Councillor Tarkos for highlighting this issue, and I really support her in the advocacy. So thank you.
Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Next item, next notice of motion 13.2, 26th of January. Councillor Papalia.
Yes, I'd like to move the motion as per the screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Russick.
I would like to second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. January 26 has long been positioned as a day of celebration and unity. But for many Australians, this is a day that divides us, a day which symbolises inequity and loss. Last year, I had the privilege of hearing a First Nations man tell his story in a way that profoundly affected me. He explained the pain he feels each year on January 26. He asked me to picture intruders coming into my home and killing my friends and family. He then asked me to have a think about how I would feel if those same people came over and had a barbecue on the same day every year after these horrific events. These words resonated deeply with me because I had never thought of what this annual celebration could feel like for First Nations people. This motion is close to my heart, and I have wanted to drive this change for our council since being elected, but it was not possible until now. Historically, under the previous government, if a council wished to stop citizenship ceremonies from occurring on January 26, it was deemed a significant breach of the citizenship protocol, and council was stripped of its rights to hold any future citizenship ceremonies. Given our rich, diverse, multicultural community in Brimbank, incurring this type of penalty was not an option. We now have a government who has given councils the choice to acknowledge that January 26 means different things to different people, and we have the ability to make a compassionate choice that reflects a deep respect for our diverse community. It's important we listen to our traditional owners and First Nations people about these issues, which is why this motion seeks close engagement with key community members to understand what January 26 could look like for our community in the future. My fellow councillors, we have an opportunity to enact important, real change for our community and Australia more broadly. By leading the way on this, it makes it safer for other councils to follow suit. I'm calling on you to support this motion so we can build an inclusive, culturally sensitive and respectful approach to January 26. Thank you.
Just quickly, I think this motion calls on reconciliation, and I know that we have it once a year, but I always say in every conversation that reconciliation should be every day, every hour of every week, of every month, of every year. It doesn't happen overnight, and I support this motion. Thank you.
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. There is no doubt that the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre has been a great success with many more members than projected. It is the jewel in Brimbank's crown. I would also like to note that the staff at the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre, including the manager and all staff, have done an outstanding job, worked extremely hard and have most certainly prevented more serious events from transpiring, and for that they should all be commended. However, with the unprecedented number of patrons, there has been a few incidences that have caused me concern, brought to my attention by council officers and directly from the community. I have visited the centre with my own young children, and along with feedback from the community, have noted there are concerns with the level of parental, carer, guardian supervision of minors whilst in the pool, the usage of mobile devices by guardians while they should be supervising minors, patrons eating whilst in the pool, the number of patrons in the aquatic area during busy times, murky water, the number of available car parks, including the amount of accessible car parks available, the level of lighting in the car park, the availability of safe pedestrian crossings. These important concerns have given me no choice but to bring this motion to council. I'm very concerned that these very serious events and near drownings could turn into a very serious fatal accident. It is my duty as a councillor to bring this issue to council. I urge my fellow councillors to support this motion for a safety review, including supervision guidelines whilst minors are in the pool, parental carer and guardian water safety awareness, the possibility of a ban on all devices whilst in the aquatic space, and a review of car parking facilities and conditions. I, along with the community, am very concerned that it is a matter of time before we are dealing with a more serious incident. The occurrences thus far have already been traumatic to staff and witnesses. I plead with my fellow councillors to support this motion for a thorough safety review as outlined above.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to this motion? Councillor Tarkos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to also congratulate Councillor Kerr for this timely and important notice of motion. I think she's outlined some issues that I have to say from the outset, we have been highly successful, and we're a victim of our own success with the amount of memberships that going through the roof, and it is a place that people who had their doubts would be blown away to see how successful and how patronised it is. But with it comes risk. And it's managing that risk and mitigating that risk that is outlined in these comments, where we have seen incidents happen, and they are highly traumatic, because you have to remember that a lot of those lifesavers are local kids, and they're kids. So witnessing anything traumatic for them will have a lasting impact as well. So we need to make sure that they're protected, but also that the children are protected as well. So because of the patronage and a lot of people visiting, because it is a fantastic centre, we need to review certain things here regarding water safety and perhaps the management of mobile phone devices, the inclusion of food in premises as well, but also other things in regards to safety to and from the centre. The car park, for example, people are struggling to find car parks, therefore missing out on classes, and in that case they're being penalised. To and fro from the leisure centre to the Keilor shopping centre, for example, there is no footpath. So people are walking into direct traffic if they want to go across to the supermarket. There's certain things that now that we've established this facility that we need to have take a lens to and do some real risk mitigation, and I applaud Councillor Kerr for raising this, because I think this is a really timely time to review it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Is there any other councillor who wishes to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. 13.4, Nature Strip Guidelines, Notice of Motion. Councillor O'Reilly.
I move the motion as per the business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor David seconds the motion. Councillor O'Reilly, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The current nature strip landscaping guidelines were formalised close to 15 years ago in July 2008. Nature strips play an important part in greening the West and reducing urban heat island effect. This is reflected through recent council policy such as the Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan and the creation of the More Trees for a Cooler, Greener West initiative by the state government. The guidelines should be reviewed to more accurately inform residents and other relevant stakeholders about nature strip management in Brimbank. They should also be reviewed to further empower locals in understanding the variety of flora that can be placed on nature strips. Lawn is not the only option. The process should involve consultation and engagement with key stakeholders and the wider community. I ask my fellow councillors to support my notice of motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. The seconder, Councillor David, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I think Councillor O'Reilly put it as in the support motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Tarkos?
Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Councillor O'Reilly for his first notice of motion, and also that I think that this is also very timely, because we do get a lot of debate on social media regarding nature strips. That's a really burning issue, and also what can be planted and what can't be planted. But what would provide canopy plus perhaps corridors for native flora and fauna. One of the issues that keeps cropping up is we should plant fruit trees, but if anyone wants to come and look at the waste from my lemon tree and kumquat tree at the moment, and the amount of fruit flies and infestation it brings, it's hard to explain that creates another issue, which includes also slipping on footpaths, etc. So there are guidelines, but I think this is a really good notice of motion to have full consideration and review to assist residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Branton, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I've got a question. Is that all right?
Yes.
When is the landscaping guidelines up for review? Does it have a review date, or is that just a ongoing thing?
Could the Director respond to that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Question on notice. I'll get back to you on that one, Councillor Branton.
Any further questions or debate? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 14, there are no notices of rescission. Item 15, CEO, is there any urgent business?
Mayor, there's no urgent business, thank you.
Item 16, there is no confidential business. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in tonight's meeting. I declare this meeting closed at 8:15 p.m. I instruct Channel 31 to stop live streaming this meeting.